You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. I want to bring in Nailah Summers, co-founder of the Dream Defenders, into our conversation. Just your perspective, what are you hearing? What are you seeing when you look at that poll? Biden at 51% among black voters. When you see the fact that obviously Senator Cory Booker, who is black, is still in the race, barely at 1%. You have Andrew Yang is in the race. He's less. He's like I think at point something percent or whatever. I mean, people are blown away by the fact that you have people of color, 4 people of color among the Democratic nominees, all doing horrible among black voters.
I think that we are in a totally different place right now. I mean, you said a few minutes ago about Bloomberg. How can anybody with sense explain away stop and frisk? Biden is the guy who wrote the 94 crime bill. Mm-hmm. So, our folks are waiting for that to dawn on our parents and our grandparents and our aunties and uncles. And we're doing the work to sort of get folks in our organization, young folks, young people of color, young black folks to talk to their families. Because as much as we talk about viability, there are better candidates than Biden. Kamala, historic run, commendable. Shout out to the K-Hive for being so fervent. But there are other candidates in the race right now who are actually going to materially make our conditions better.
Who?
And so that's what Dream Defenders are doing the work.
No. Who?
Who's that?
Who's the candidate? Who are the candidates?
I mean, Warren, Bernie Sanders, their actual policies. I mean, their criminal justice policies are definitely worth a look.
But so let me ask you this here though, because I mean, I get the whole deal in terms of talking to your parents.
Yeah.
But here's the point that I also keep making. You can talk to them all you want to.
Right.
But the issue that I have been saying for years to folks 18 to 34 is that the only way to get somebody's attention is voting. If 18 to 34 actually voted their numbers, it changes. But the reality is 35 plus, they vote. And when you 55 plus, oh man, they hardcore vote.
Right.
And so I think I totally get trying to have that conversation with them. I just still think black voters are looking at this same way white folks are looking at it, same way Latinos are looking at it. It's that man got to go, and I'm going to support the person who I think has the best chance to get that man out, even if somebody else's policies might be better. Your response, I'm going to go to Scott.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to do better. It's actually pretty sad for us, for the Dream Defenders, to be in this place. We're doing all of our get out the vote stuff. We drove people out for Gillum, and it's a different era than it was in 2016. I mean, we had Black Lives Matter at the time. Now we have the Parkland kids. We have the climate strikers. Like, young people are empowered right now, and we're also a huge slice of the electorate this coming election. So, I mean, I think you can't count out the young folks.
Oh, no. And that's the piece. Here's the deal. I'm not counting them out. What I'm saying is they are a potential huge slice of the electorate. But what has to happen is they got to prove it. Just like, look, I'm born and raised in Texas. For the last 15 years, there's been 2.1 million eligible but unregistered Latinos in Texas. I have said to my Latino brothers and sisters, look, y'all come talk to me all day about your numbers. Your demographic numbers means nothing unless it turns into voting power.
Right.
And so that to me is the opportunity if you're a young voter, and that's what I'm looking at. Will they blow this thing out in the primary? Because here's the piece. If in the first, I would dare say the first 5 to 8 states, if all of a sudden young numbers are off the charts, that then changes the dynamic for the next 42 states. Mm-hmm. But if we see sort of, a slight bump, but pretty much older voters coming out in big numbers, I don't think anything changes.
Roland, let me ask you this. Your premise about that black people and others have decided we got to get Trump out, and I'm going with who's going to win, who can beat Trump, versus going with somebody black or somebody whose policies are better for us. I couldn't tell whether you were bragging or complaining.
No,
What's wrong with that strategy?
No, I was asking you a question.
Because you seemed like you were being critical.
No, I was
inherent in the question.
I was
critical of that approach.
No, I was asking a question because actually where the criticism comes in is in the media framing.
Okay.
The media framing, because I had a problem with it the day after.
Say it.
I had a problem with Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, Mika, Willie, what's the other dude? Mike Barnacle, all of them having Michael Moore constantly on. And the whole deal was like, economic anxiety, when they were also overlooking the race issue. They were overlooking Trump pushing their button on illegal immigration, Trump pushing their buttons on race. And I'm sitting there like, what are y'all doing? And I think what happens is when you keep hearing those messages, it embeds in your mind. So you start thinking, well, hell, we might need to have us a white dude who can appeal to the white working class voters to get their attention. And literally, New York Times, Washington Post, all these newspapers and magazines, story after story after story. I'm like, damn, y'all gonna rewrite the same story
but I also
1,000
think
times?
But I also think that you're right about that, but maybe it's slightly different. That people of color don't believe that America is in a position to successfully elect a black Democrat or candidate of color any longer because of how racially divisive the Trump administrations have been. And then they fall into that piece and say, you know what, we need to elect somebody white so we can get him out because nobody black is electable, no matter how much we love Kamala or anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with Scott on that because I think that we are in a very hyper-partisan but also a very hyper-racial point in our nation's history.
Very much so.
And that division, I don't think that many black voters particularly think that that's something that we're going to get over in the next administration. There was a lot of hope, for lack of a better term, based on President Obama's election and us having this historical moment. I don't think any black people thought we were post-racial, but I definitely know that they know that we're not. Everybody knows we aren't post-racial right now. And I think that there is a fear of us choosing someone and that being totally, annihilated by white voters, even Democrats, who choose that they do not want to support that person of color.
Now, I got to ask you this question here. I want to get a sense of what are you also hearing. I was at the airport. I told this story the other day. I was at the airport on Sunday. I flew back from St. Louis, speaking to the St. Louis chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha for the 100th anniversary. Scott, you weren't invited.
I thought you were at the Boule.
No, not yet. So, Nailah, what was interesting is that a brother came up to me, and he said, man, I watch your show. He said, but you said that you called people dumbasses who did not vote in 2016. And he said, do you really, really feel that way? And I went, yes. But I then asked him, I said, let me explain to you why. Then I asked him, what do you care about? And it was the same conversation I had with a young sister who called my radio show from North Carolina in 2016. And this young sister said, I'm just not feeling Hillary Clinton. I'm not feeling Trump, so I'm going to ignore the top of the ticket. I'm going to focus on state issues. And I said, what are your top 3 state issues? And literally, I connected the dots between who wins the presidency and her top 3 issues. And as I was talking to her, she literally she's about 24, 25. And this sister said, I had no idea. Now, she said she was college educated, she was an activist, but she said she herself had no idea that the president had an impact on those issues. And so as you're out there, what are you confronting? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And how are you trying to get people over that hurdle who said, I didn't vote in 16 and I don't really see why I got to vote in 2020?
The fact of the matter is that most people get involved during the presidential election. As much as we bump into people from time to time that say that they vote in local and that's all I care about, that's all that matters, most people are involved right now because of the presidential election. So the work that we're doing is talking to young folks. We just went through an endorsement process. Our membership all across Florida studied policy for the last 4 months of all the presidential candidates, and our organization is going to endorse next month. And these people are talking to their parents and doing the same thing. Like right now, we're in a voter education process. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people like really have hunger and are wondering like how this stuff affects them. And again, that's why we're trying to drive the interest to folks that have more progressive policies. Because the status quo is not going to get us anywhere. And, if you didn't vote in 2016, that's one thing. But right now, it's a little different. The stakes are higher.
So I take when President Obama said that Democratic candidates should not go too far to the left, that was not necessarily something you wanted to hear him say?
Oh, Obama. Yes, that's not all that surprising, frankly. And, trying to pull the reins up on this young movement, this young force. I mean, kids are on social media making political commentary every day. Look at TikTok; they're all talking about.
But I gotta ask you this though. He won twice.
He won because he appealed to the young people, the hope, the change.
But here's the so again, I'm gonna push back on this because it's something that I think we have to think about. He's talking from a position of, I won. He's talking from a position of actually winning white voters. First of all, it's not like he won 50% of white voters, but he won white voters who later voted for Trump. So shouldn't Democratic candidates be really paying attention to the person who won twice as opposed to folks who are saying we should do this, who never won? Because at the end of the day, it's about winning. You can have great ideas, but if you lose, you had some great like Beto O'Rourke's people. Again, I'm from Texas. They were all on me. Beto won. I'm like, did he get sworn in? And they were talking about how he won. I kept saying, no. When you win, you win. And so isn't that also part of this struggle? I think that's the struggle between what young voters want to hear and these older voters. I think older voters are saying, yo, we trying to win, baby. So go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Aim higher. Aim higher. As much as our generation got told that people sacrifice themselves for our vote, are we just giving our vote to somebody who frankly doesn't deserve it? Like, I think it's a moral question now. And, we're going to do what we have to do. Young people know what's at stake. They're going to come out. They're just not going to be excited about a Biden or a Buttigieg or whoever else. Like, we want somebody who is going to inspire. We want somebody who people are going to be excited to vote for. That's how we get our numbers up. And, there's independents and, the centrist voter that we often worry about so much. If you have somebody who inspires young people, we will come out in droves. We will win an election for you. If you are considering our future, if you are considering our student debt, if you are considering mass incarceration, climate, if you are speaking to the conditions that we are inheriting, we will come out and vote for you. And Joe Biden and some of these others, which we call the underachievers, are not going to be that for young people. And so you have a situation where maybe he can vote. Maybe he can win. And that's what we keep being told. But he's not doing anything for us. There is nobody who is going to say, you know what? Yes, let's go. Let's drive everybody to the polls. We're going to do it begrudgingly.
These panelists want to jump in. So Chris and Amisha. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so you're saying that. So who is doing it then? Who is this person you're talking about in the current race? These are the candidates you have.
Had a poll
Who's doing it?
that said black women, millennials, in essence, Bernie Sanders is winning millennial black women.
So okay. So you really
and this
think...
is, no, it's not an endorsement. Black Women For is an organization with many friends, many women who are veterans of the Black Lives Matter movement. They came out for Warren. The young people right now are striving for something that is really going to change.
Okay, so you
Biden is not going to do that.
Okay, great. But so you think that Sanders or Warren can defeat Trump?
Absolutely. There are polls that say so. The polls that we pulled up earlier had Sanders, I think. Sanders and Warren maybe either neck and neck or winning Trump.
Yeah.
If we threw our weight behind somebody who was exciting and that would actually change things for us, like, why not band together behind somebody who's aiming higher?
Okay, so you're saying so Sanders and Warren are aiming higher. Is that what you're saying?
But
Yes.
hold on though. But I need to pull this up here because this is the piece here. So what you just said, you said that millennials in the millennial poll, Sanders was first. Okay.
In an essence,
No. I know.
Yeah.
We did a story on it, and I have it right here. But
Gotcha.
here is the piece that we have to deal with. Go to my iPad, please. In that poll, 18 and 34-year-old, if you were to vote today, who would you vote for? Other, prefer not to answer, was 26.9.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders was 18.9. Harris was 17.1. Warren was 13.7. Joe Biden was 10.3. But overall, Biden was at 25. Other was at 26. Biden was at 25. Harris was at 15. Warren was at 12. Bernie Sanders was at 10. The point I'm making is this here. So if you looked at millennials, 18 to 34, Sanders was number one at 18.9. But overall, he was fifth. So the issue that you have, and see, so what I'm saying is, your issue ain't just folks' parents. It's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. It's about 35 plus. And that to me, and that's what I'm saying. But the struggle is so in essence, you're trying to vault somebody who is number one among millennials, but who's fifth overall above the other folks. That's a hell of a road to hoe.
It is. And,
Okay,
we are a
let me-
leftist organization. We are very, very progressive, and we're made up of, change makers.
But do you consider the country to be at that point? Because with the stats that we just saw with with that polling, it seems like Democrats are not there. And I'm also a black millennial. I turned 31 this year. At the end of the day, I also believe in making sure that we elect somebody who is electable. And I don't necessarily believe that just because you have the furthest left, things that right now with the composition of the Senate, which isn't necessarily poised to flip within 2020, that we're going to be able to get those things passed anyway. I think that there's a certain amount of reasonability, understandability, and facts that we have to operate within as well. And I think that we go about choosing the candidate who is able to bring about the most demographic groups within the Democratic Party. And that exists even among black people, because not all black people are millennials. So when we're looking at this large composite of blacks, we're also looking at people who are just outside the millennial space, the 36-year-olds, who are also going in a different direction. So I think that we have to not make it seem like these are people who don't believe in change. Of course they believe in change. I think all Democrats want to see somebody in office that's not Donald Trump. But on that same token, they're not there yet on saying that Warren or Sanders would be that person.
Right, but also in fairness, President Obama's point was not that the progressives should not be progressive or that the young people shouldn't be doing exactly what they do. Verbatim, he said that that's their job. He said his problem is that no concessions are made, no conversations are had. It's either you're all the way on board with all of these things or you're canceled. And this kind of cancel culture amidst politics does not work. There has to be a willingness to come to the table. So I guess my question would be, if you don't get this one or two of these candidates that you're interested in terms of working with young people, then don't you think it's wisdom to be aiming also to have the necessary conversations with somebody who actually has a chance of winning, so that you know when the nominee is elected and it's not somebody who is as progressive as you want, that you will have an end, that the young people can understand your voice doesn't end because it's not your candidate. Your voice goes all the way to the White House if you're putting in the work with every candidate.
Nailah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said it earlier that we are committed to getting Trump out of the White House. And right now it's a race. It's a competition. So we're going to, throw down on somebody who we think has a vision for the country that does the most for the most people. And we'll see who gets the nomination. But either way, we're going to throw down. We're going to get young people in the streets to vote. But, in the meantime, during this primary, Florida's primary is March 17th, we are going to throw down to really try to get somebody who is progressive, who is going to get us minimum wage, a livable wage, and all of those things for our people.
All right, I have got to. Well, no,
Can I have one last question?
You don't want to say it. You got to leave at 7 o'clock.
Well, I was just joking with you. Here's the thing.
Oh,
Even in March,
now you're just joking. Right.
Here's the thing. Even on March 17th.
Final comment, Nailah, because I got 2 other guests. Go.
Even on March 17th, what's the most important objective for Dream Defenders? To elect someone who can beat Trump, or to elect someone that you believe in?
Actually, before you answer that, on March 17th, it's a primary. So the reality is, if you're in Florida, it's who you want in the primary. But once the dust settles, that's a different conversation.
I got you, but
so frankly,
that's why I limited it. I purposely limited it to March 17th.
So there you go.
There's a Democratic primary.
So she's already answered it. She wants Sanders.
Or,
Did she say that?
Oh, no,
She
no,
didn't
I
say
didn't
that.
Warren.
Sanders.
I'm just messing with you.
Okay, I was like, wait,
Anyway,
hold on. Don't
That's
do
a
that
fair
to me.
question, though. Roland's joking.
But you know
it's a
y'all
fair
endorsement
question.
coming down to 2 people, Sanders or Warren.
it's
And
certainly
if they
not gonna be
can't
Trump.
win,
I know Biden and Buttigieg ain't on y'all list, but go right ahead.
And neither is Trump.
Answer Scott's question.
But who says that somebody like Biden is going to win against Trump?
a lot of
Have you
polling.
seen, his
A lot of
debate
polling.
Definitely doesn't
performances?
say that about Warren.
Say that I couldn't hear that.
Well,
But
first
yes,
of all, here's
it
the
is
deal.
important to value.
Here's the deal.
the
Nobody
vote
knows.
and to value our values.
Here's the deal. Nobody knows
Who's-
if somebody can beat Trump until it actually happens. But the reality is, before you can get to beating Trump, you got to beat the other Democrats. And if you, as it stands now, even though one ballot has not been cast, how polling is going across these various states, Biden is leading. At the end of the day, you still have to run. Look, Obama was down big at this very point in 2007. All of a sudden, ground game, does well in Iowa, changes the ball game. He barely loses in New Hampshire, breaks even in Nevada, crushes Clinton in South Carolina, and then it was onward to victory. But that was the deal. This is also different because that race came down to 2 different people. And so for all the people right now who are stuck on who can beat Trump, at the end of the day, look, you got to win the nomination first.
Before you tell me
Simple as that. Nailah, your final comment before I let you go.
Thanks for having me. I hope that we figure it out and that we get somebody in office who's going to really help our folks, because ultimately that's the work that we do and that's the work that we need to keep doing.
Well, I firmly believe the work the Dream Defenders is doing is critically important. But also what I have said, whether it's Dream Defenders, whether it's a Black Women's Roundtable, whether it's NAACP, whether it's anybody, and what we do on this show as well is what happened with me and a young brother on Sunday. I think for a lot of people out there, I think for people like us, we live and breathe this stuff all the time. We follow these issues. We understand the nuanced stuff along those lines. The average person sitting out there, whether they are white or Black or Latino or Asian or whatever, they're not living and breathing. I think what is important, and I've done it enough around the country to know it works, and that is we have to connect the dots for people. So that's why the first thing I ask anybody is, what's the 1 or 2 things you most care about? And then once they say that, I then say, now let's talk about how this politician, whether it's on the city or the county or the state or federal level, has an impact on your issue. And people go, damn, I didn't know most of that, because they're not living this. And so I think that's where what y'all are doing, where the voter education is important, which is really a throwback to what SCLC, NAACP, and others did during the Black Freedom Movement, where they had citizenship education training.
Absolutely.
Well,
and, we've learned from our elders. So that's absolutely the vein of what we're trying to do.
Nailah Summers, co-founder of
So,
Dream
thank
Defenders.
that.
We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our folks at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. So if you want to take advantage, you better get in now. Of course, hemp is a cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana, but it won't get you high. Scott is sad. Now, folks, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It's an investment opportunity for you and the full folks at 420 Real Estate have a simple business model. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants, people like Chris. They are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Now, all you got to do is invest as little as $200. Monique, you got that. In the crowdfunding campaign, up to $10,000. Amisha, some of that Sinclair money. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.